This is how it always was for the thousands around the world lucky enough to call Marla a friend. It didn't matter if you lived in the streets of Baghdad, the dusty villages of Afghanistan, or the corridors of power in Washington, D.C. It didn't matter whether you knew Marla. She would come up to you, and you would feel like you knew her for a lifetime. She treated every conversation as a chance to tell you about the righteousness of her cause, and she treated everyone with the same respect, openness, and unconditional love. We so often hear in these troubled times, and now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. My office was flooded today with emails and phone calls from the people whose lives were touched by Marla's faith, hope, and love. Everyone had a story to tell, and I brought a few photos to share with you because words aren't enough. In this photo, she sent hours before her death. We see her holding tightly to an Iraqi child who was thrown from a vehicle just before it was blown up in a rocket attack. The child's entire family was killed. Marla saved that child. We see one of the countless civilians brutally injured, now beaming and healthy next to the person, Marla, who helped her heal. We see Marla's trusted Iraqi colleague, Fayez, whom she wrote, quote, was sent to me by angels from the sky. He worked tirelessly beside her, and he died bravely beside her. And we see this beautiful, vibrant young woman, her red scarf around her neck, surrounded by the soldiers that she befriended and entreated in her quest to help Iraqi civilians. And Senator Leahy made the point that everyone wanted to help Marla. Everyone. The U.S. military wanted to make up for the damage that was caused. They desperately wanted to do that, but they needed someone who could give them accurate information, and she did that. Inside the green zone, one friend wrote last night, she would encourage military officers and U.S. officials to hug each other, just to remember that they were all still human, and reward them with a big smile if they actually did it. There are many other pictures that her friends wanted to share of a woman who was a great friend to all and a beloved ambassador for the U.S. at a time when our actions may not be so popular. There were images of the notes she sent them when their spirits were at their lowest, telling them how beautiful they are and how much their work mattered and how much she cared. I think we're going to leave this picture up because it's just so exquisite. There are other pictures of Marla sleeping on the floor for nights on end so she could use her limited resources helping Iraqi victims. Behind her happy-go-lucky demeanor, there was the picture of an effective advocate cornering a defense secretary, a general, or yes, a United States senator, and refusing to go away until our country counted and cared for the innocent victims of war. And there was the picture of the room full of journalists waiting that last night for their host to show up for another party she'd planned to buoy their spirits and no doubt try to persuade them to write about the victims she saw who were suffering terrible, terrible damage, not collateral damage, but critical damage. A few days before she died, Marla wrote her own op-ed for the Washington Post. She talked about her most recent discovery that the U.S. military was counting Iraqi civilian casualties in some places, despite its claims to the contrary. She ended with these words, quote, "To me, each number is a story of someone whose hopes and dreams and potential will never be realized and who left behind a family." The same can be said of Marla. Her hopes, her dreams, and her potential will never be realized. And she left behind a family. But I will tell you, In all the years that I've lived, I don't know too many people who have made an impact the way she has in those 28 short years. But I guarantee you, if Marla was here, she wouldn't want us to weep. She wouldn't want us to hide our heads. She would want us to keep fighting for the people and causes she had championed, even before she was old enough to drive a car. She would want us to remember the words of encouragement and action she sent constantly to friends and colleagues. Once she wrote, "Their tragedies are my responsibilities." And now, her work must be ours. And I hope a message goes out to these suicide bombers to stop what they're doing. To stop it now. And to those who would put together these roadside bombs, to stop it now. Because everyone who is injured by this, everyone, has hopes and dreams and families and potential. So her work must be ours. She was the voice of these victims that no one seems to pay much attention to. We need to be her voice now. And these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Mr. President, may we join the grieving Ruzicka family and thousands around the world in paying tribute to a young woman of great faith, hope, and love by finishing the work that she so courageously began, and by working to make sure that this war will soon come to an end. Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm done, and I would yield to my friend.